Hello everyone, I'm Chapple. I upload business videos pretty much every day, so hit the subscribe button if you want to see those. Now today we are talking about the 1%. Oh, those are the greedy people. They are the terrible people. They are the people that destroy every single country. And that's how they're viewed in the media, the 1%. And I just kind of want to explain both sides of the argument. You know, what some people see the 1% as, as job creators, and some people see them as the people that just steal and hog all the money. And I'm going to give a fairly, hopefully neutral point of view from my perspective as to the truth about the 1% and who they really are, I guess. So I guess we should start off here. In order to be a part of the 1% in America, you need to make about $400K a year. That's a lot of money, $400,000. This is just a rough estimate. I've heard estimates from $350,000 to $460,000, but we're going to say about $400,000 a year to be a part of the top 1% of the income earners in America. And these 1% own 35% of the wealth in the United States. And this is largely in the companies they own and in real estate. And their portfolios, whatever, their investment portfolios. That's where a lot of their wealth comes from. Now, I want to get this record straight here because I'm going to kind of give both sides, and I'm going to get a lot of social justice warriors being like, what are you talking about? You're like defending the 1%. Then on the other side, I'm going to get conservative people saying like, what do you mean? The 1% are amazing. What are you talking about them? So I just want to get this out of the way. Massive income inequality is bad. Giant income inequality where a few people live like kings and millions of people can't even afford food, that is bad. Now, in order for a society to be productive and successful, there needs to be some sort of inequality. In order for some people to work harder to innovate and make the country a better place, and yeah, there needs to be some sort of imbalance in order to have a good economy and a good civilization. But if it's too much, then that can be very, very bad. And if it's too little, then that's communism, which again, that hasn't worked. So I just wanted to get that out of the way to start with. That's a fairly neutral point of view. A little bit of inequality is good, but tons of inequality is very, very bad. So I got that out of the way. Now, let's talk about who are the 1%. Who are they? And so this is something that gets misconstrued, I guess, in the media. And I see this a lot. You know what? This video was kind of inspired by me, just hearing people talk about who they think the 1% are. And I think that they're all just greedy bankers and people that just steal your money. And so let's do a breakdown of who the 1% really are. And this is what I've seen specifically. Like, I'm doing fairly well for someone my age. I'm probably going to be a part of the 1% in the next couple of years. And the vast majority of the people who are in the 1% aren't the people that you see in the media. They aren't all Donald Trump or, those Kevin O'Leary sharks that are just terrible and make fun of you all the time. They aren't the greedy Wall Street bankers that just steal all your money. And they're we'll just tackle this here. So 33% of the people in the 1%, they are either business owners and executives. Business owners and executives. So right there, people think that all corporate CEOs are terrible. All executives are terrible. All chief financial officers are all terrible people because they make so much money. And a lot of them do make a lot of money, but the vast majority of corporate CEOs, they're just running like small businesses. They aren't those people that you see in the news that are getting $100 million compensation packages. Those are bad. I don't agree with those. When 1,000 people get laid off from their company and the CEO gets a few $100 million to be fired, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think that's definitely a bad thing. However, the vast majority of CEOs and executives are good people, and again, business owners, most of them are good people. Most of them are, and hire a lot of people and are responsible for why you're working right now. So I want to get that record straight here. Now, the next level down is 16% of people in the 1% are in the medical profession. No one has a problem with doctors making a lot of money, right? These are doctors, family doctors, surgeons, any sort of specialty in the medical field. That's what this is. Neurosurgeon, anesthesiologist. No one has a problem with them being in the 1%, right? Because all doctors are amazing. Now, here's where a lot of people should be a little bit here's where a lot of the anger is directed towards, actually. This is what Occupy Wall Street was all about. So 14% are the bankers, fund managers, etc. There we go. That's people working in the financial district. And even so, most of the people that work in this, that are part of the 1%, most of them are good people and not stealing all your money. It's just very, very few, though, of this percentage do bad things. Now this is, if you're going to direct your anger towards any sort of person in the 1%, this is where it should be. It's people that give out loans that they shouldn't give out. It's people that are selling off that loans to other companies. People that are taking your investments and taking out large hidden fees every single year to screw you over, and it benefits them. However, most people in this field are still good people. Not all people in the 1% are just terrible, terrible people and should give away all their money, right? That's not how it works. I mean, the vast majority of people in the 1% that I've talked to are the most generous, hardworking people, I know one person actually, I'll tell you this story. I'll tell you the side tangent story. So, someone worked for, I guess I worked for a boss. This boss owned tons of companies. He owned like 7 or 8 companies, employed 100 to 200 people or so. And he had this other employee there who was talking about, he was part of the classical super socialist thinking where all business owners and all rich people should be taxed at 70% or more because that's what's best for a society. Meanwhile, I do live in Canada, and so does he, where the top income earners are taxed at roughly 54% right now of their income, and corporate tax is around 40% right now. So highest taxes pretty much in the entire world. And so this employee was saying, hey, why are you trying to avoid taxes and take all these business expenses? I mean, that's not good for society. That's not good for Canada. And meanwhile, this business owner got so mad because a lot of young people don't understand what it means to run a business. And this is something that I've learned from my journey from employee to employer, is that work never leaves your mind. Work never leaves you. You are stressed out all the time. The only way I can kind of explain this to a lot of young people watching, to a lot of university students, to a lot of high school students, it's like, especially when you're starting out or when you're at the mid-level business, you live in a perpetual state where it's like you have an exam the next day. And you know how you're nervous and like freaked out, but it's also like, you know it's not the end of the world, but you're just kind of stressed out and nervous for the next day. That's what it's like all the time when you are at the top of the company running it. Because one day you might not make any money, one day you make tons of money. You have to pay your employees first before you pay yourself. You have to make big, massive decisions every single day. And I'm trying to get that across to people that are, I don't know, just always target the 1% as being terrible, terrible, terrible people. Now we're going to move on here actually. I'm going to give another side to the story in a second here. So let's just move on through this. Who are the 1% here? So 14% financial people, 9% are lawyers. Oh, Jesus. Lawyers. 5% are engineers. ENG. Engineers. We got 4% are sales. This may not fit on camera here, so I may just read a few off here. I'll read the rest off here because it probably won't fit. So 4% are in sales, 4% are blue collar, contractors, running small businesses, something in there, blue collar people. 4% are investors that don't work. So again, that's another area which is a little bit angry, is that 4% of people earning $400,000 a year or more, they're just investors and don't work. They either built up a giant company and are just living off of dividends and capital gains, etc., or they're a venture capitalist, which I have no problem with. So 4% are investors, 3% are real estate agents, brokers, etc., people who own real estate, they're in the real estate field. 2% are professors or in the educational field, and 6% are scattered amongst every other category. So that's who the 1% are. People think that they're all just bankers and fund managers, and that all of those people are terrible. And the vast majority are people that actually run companies, and doctors and lawyers, engineers. So I just want to clear that up with a lot of young people. It's most of the people in the 1% are actually doing a good thing for society. Now, however, we're going to move on here. However, there's another side to the story here. So I've explained this. Most of the people in the 1% are hard workers. They're good people. From anecdotal experience, that's just what I've seen. And give a lot to charity, give back tens of thousands of dollars every single year. They don't just steal money, they actually contribute. Yet you only hear stories about bankers and CEOs getting $100 million compensation packages like they did for Occupy Wall Street, and no one went to jail. That is something that still angers me, and I'm fairly, I think that people should make as much money as they want. I have no problem if someone makes $1 billion as long as they are productive and do it in an ethical and good way. However, a lot of those big bankers that were in trouble that one year, they were not so ethical. They knew that a lot of their clients would get screwed over, a lot of their investments would go to zero, and yet they made money from it. So again, that's what makes me angry, is that's how people think of the 1%. The 1% occupy Wall Street. It's not the hardworking small business owners that go into work every day and employ hundreds of people. It's not the doctors and surgeons that save people's lives. It's not the lawyer. Okay, lawyers are a little bit douchebags, but at least they do their job. Engineers and salespeople and blue-collar people. Like, people don't think of those fields as the 1%. And so that's one of the messages I'm trying to get across here. So, however, here's another side to the story, is that most of the people here in the 1% go through lifestyle inflation. And I'll explain what that is. I've talked about this in other videos. So let's say you make $40,000 a year. You're a fairly middle-class person, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. Your expenses every year add up to $39,500, including taxes. So you're pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. Now, what happens when you're a doctor and you're a lawyer, whatever, and you're bad with money, then your pay gets bumped up to $400,000, but you will increase your expenses to like $380,000, $390,000. So you hear these stories a lot, especially in areas like San Francisco. I was actually watching this documentary recently. There was a doctor in San Francisco who was getting paid, I think, $250,000, he was saying. But he said that his housing, his car, going out to eat, all that adds up to $230,000, $240,000. So it felt like he was living paycheck to paycheck, even though he's making $250,000. It's because lifestyle inflation. When a lot of people increase their income, they'll increase their expenses proportionally. And so I'm not saying feel bad for people in the 1%. I'm just saying they are just as bad with money in a lot of cases as middle class people, and with poor people. They make more of it, but they spend way more of it on stuff that they don't need. Now, that's where a lot of people get angry too. Why don't you just donate that to charity? Why don't you just do X, Y, Z? That's a whole different story. So again, lifestyle inflation. A lot of people in the 1% still feel like they live paycheck to paycheck, which is quite sad. I don't feel bad for people that do that, by the way. So people in the 1% making $400K a year that feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck, odds are it's their fault, and don't feel bad for them, because they're making a lot of money. They just have a lot of expenses, which is something that odds are they had a choice about. So I don't feel bad for them. I'm just saying that a lot of people think that they have no money stress in the world. Most of them do. So we're going to move on here. We're going to move on to, so do they deserve having the wealth, the 1%? And I would say, think of it, there's two ways to think of it. There's the corporate people that steal all the money, right? That's the impression of one side. The other side is you have people making giant, big decisions that are stressed out all the time and employ a lot of people. So there's two sides to this story here. And I like to think of it as why does Bill Gates deserve to have all the money, to have $70 billion worth of wealth? That's a ton of money. It's true. Does he need all of it? No, of course not. However, if he did not build his company the way he did, there's a pretty decent chance that the world would not have affordable personal computers around the world. Maybe the internet doesn't even happen if Bill Gates doesn't start that company. I mean, 1 billion people have computers because he was born and built that company. He changed the world. Does he deserve to be the richest man in the world for arguably having the biggest influence in the world from the past 100 years? Maybe. Maybe. And that's just the thought I want to leave you with. Does he need 70 billion? No. And he's doing philanthropy now. He's giving back, curing polio in Africa, right? That's what he's doing. So that's the side that I always see it from, is what has that person done to deserve it? A lot of people think that also that the vast majority of people in the 1% inherit their wealth. That's actually not true, because 80 to 90% of people in the 1% are self-made and come from middle class, maybe upper middle class, lower middle class, or even poor families. And people who inherit their wealth tend to also lose it too, because they're bad with money, because they've never had to go through that journey of gaining money. So that's another thought I'd like to leave you with here. Let's see, what else do we got here? Oh yeah, so here's what I think that people should direct their anger towards. I do agree that we're heading towards we're in a system right now where the more money you have, the more money you can make. That's the system we're in. Capital produces more money than labor. That's unfortunate, because that's why the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. 85% of all economic growth currently goes to the 1%. That is pretty high. And now I don't usually say a lot of my political views, because I do think that I'm fairly centrist, I guess, for Canada. Actually, no, in Canada I'm conservative, I'm centrist, I guess, for the world. Canada is super liberal. So I think we're not in a good system right now, where the wealth is all going to the top. I do agree with that. However, I don't think you should blame the people that are building that wealth, because most of them start from nothing and just work their way up. They're going through the system. Now, the system is more of what is to blame for becoming wealthy. Because we're in a system now where people think that, again, here's another thing. People think that, like Bernie Sanders, like taxing the 1% at 90%, that'll solve all economic problems. And I don't think that is the case, because when people think of taxing the 1% at a 90% rate, there's two things. One is that those people can pack up and move to a different country. And like me, I've said this on video a few times, there's a good chance in the next couple of years I'm going to be taxed at roughly 54% if I don't have any tax deductions in Canada. And I was saying, if taxes get to 60%, I'm packing up and I'm moving away. I'm moving to a different country, because there's no way that people should be taking more than half of the money that you earn, especially 60%. So here's the other thing, is that people think that just raising the taxes on the 1% is going to cure everything, like taxing at 90%. But here's the deal, is that when people think of doing that, they aren't taxing the investors. They aren't taxing a lot of business owners, people that use their money in a smart way. There's ways to get around the tax laws, right? By investing in real estate, I've said this many times, you might not have to pay any taxes if you invest in real estate, and in stocks, in capital gains and dividends. And so bankers, fund managers, a lot of business owners, they have ways of getting around that tax raise. The people that don't have a way of getting around that are people that are the most deserving of the money, arguably. People in the medical profession, engineers, I guess sales, half and half. But you're taxing the employees of the 1%. You're taxing the doctors. You're taxing people that don't necessarily have ways of getting around that giant taxation. You're not taxing the people who are actually causing the problem. although other people aren't causing the problem in the first place. So I'm kind of getting off track here. What do I want you guys to take from this video? It's that from my experience and from stats, most people in the 1% are, do they deserve the wealth? I would probably say for the most part, yes. Some people, no. Is extreme wealth inequality and income inequality bad? Yes. Are we currently at that state? I don't know. I don't think so. However, we are heading towards extreme amounts of that, where the middle class are not able, the middle class are called the working poor right now. And that's really unfortunate to see. So I think that if you are to point your blame towards anything as to why people are poor, why people are middle class, it's not necessarily the people that are in the 1%, because most of them are good people, they pay their taxes, they're employers. It's the way the system's set up, where the more money you have, the more money you can make. And I don't really know a way around that system, because I don't think that taxing people in the 1% at extreme rates, I don't think that's going to do it. I think that there needs to be a new sort of system, but I don't really know what that is. And I'd like to hear your suggestions on that, about how a new economic system can be set up for where it's a little more balanced, so people who don't make a lot of money maybe have access to more capital to start a company. You know what? I think that's a good solution, actually. What do you guys think about that? People that are poor or middle class that are financially educated, give them access to capital in the same way that a rich person would have access to capital. What do you guys think about that? There would need to be a lot of stuff that goes behind that, like making sure that they actually pay the money back, etc. But I think that could be a good solution. So again, this is just my opinions on this. So what do you guys think of this video? Did you guys know who the 1% were? Did you think that they were all bankers and just giant people that stole all your money? I know a lot of my subscribers, they know that the vast majority of the people in the 1% are not people like that. They're people that are business owners and executives. And again, doctors, lawyers, etc. So I'd like to know what you think. What are your thoughts on the 1%? I mean, I'm motivated in the current system to climb up to the 1%, and I'm going to pretty soon. I hope so. Are you motivated too? I'd like to hear. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button if you like me talking about business. You like to see those videos every day. Subscribe, hit the like button if you liked this video. I know that this video is going to get a lot of dislikes for some reason. Just because, and whenever you talk about anything that's even mildly political or has to do with classes, it usually gets more dislikes. But that's okay. So I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.